All right, so I've got this paper stencil pushed, wetted down, and it's on the paper. And now what I'm going to do is simply use my sponge. Now, as I use my sponge, I'm washing some clay away. Now, I'm using some recycled clay that I have at home because I don't have enough of the school clay at home. And so my clay is a little bit gritty. You're going to see a rough texture. Your clay doesn't have the kind of sand that my clay has, so you won't see that. But what you will see is clay ending up on your sponge. And and you want to be careful. Stiff paper is great. This paper is wanting to break down a little bit, so I've got to be careful to make sure that I'm rubbing from the outside to the inside. Otherwise, the paper will fold up like that one did there. And every so often, rinse out that sponge, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the clay to collect on your sponge. You're basically washing away some of the clay. And so I'm gonna leave this rough texture. Yours won't have much of a texture difference, but what we're gonna end up with is a height difference because we're washing away the clay that it was in these open spaces of the stencil. We're gonna end up with a raised and lowered surface. This will be a subtle design. And so, depending how long you go at this, which may depend how long your paper holds up, typing paper is probably a little bit better than the paper I have here. The paper, like the thick cardstock paper that you had, may work with this if you can get it to stick down. Okay, you may need to wipe the back of it, wet the back of it to get it to stick. But anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm washing away, and when I'm done, or when I reach a done point, what I'm going to be left with is the texture, the smooth texture I had smoothed before I started this. The smooth texture of the tile is going to be raised, and where the paper was. And where the paper wasn't, where these holes are that I'm working on, I'm going to be left with a lowered, and in my case, because of my clay, slightly rough texture there. Yours will have kind of the texture. Oop, that one's about done because I'm running out. The paper's falling apart. You're going to be left with a indented area, a shallower area, and it may have some of the sponge texture that you're using. So what we're doing, we're washing away this clay. I know it's super fun to watch. I'm going to be done now so you can see the difference. So as I pull that up off of there, you can see that those areas are indented. Had I kept going, and particularly had I had a thicker paper, I could have gotten them a little deeper. Now I've got a little bit of edges, kind of cleanup maybe to do in a couple places here, but most of that will be fine if I just let it dry. The stripes, the paper had stripes on it, the ink stuck, and that's fine. The ink will burn off when I fire it. And so that is a way to essentially take clay away. On the next run, I'll show you how to add water or slip using a stencil.